Even after some great improvements in the Rising Tide expansion, Civilization Beyond Earth is still having a hard time living up to its outstanding predecessors. The expansion enhances a lot of things, like diplomacy, exploration, and affinity choice, leaving Beyond Earth a better game than ever. It just does very little to resolve the limited replayability that's the central cause of this being a relatively weak Civilization game. The overhauled diplomacy system is the best it's ever been in a Civ game. Each leader now has a respect and fear value, which serves as an excellent barometer for how they're likely to treat you. This is augmented by selectable personality traits, which provide bonuses, can be swapped or leveled up with the new diplomatic capital resource, and will influence how much AI leaders respect you. A main source of diplomatic capital is international agreements, and you're required to have a web of incoming and outgoing agreements to stay in the green. This creates a system that makes diplomacy an enjoyable and essential cornerstone to almost any campaign. Other marked improvements include the ability for your explorers to discover artifacts, which works a bit like a collectible card game, and can unlock some very powerful bonuses for your Civ. An increased incentive to explore into the late game preserves the feeling that there's always something new to discover. While Rising Tide does everything it set out to do really well, it only extended my interest in Beyond Earth for about 4 campaigns. Like with the vanilla version of Beyond Earth, each run didn't feel different enough from the last. Even with some new biomes that include new quest chains and subtle modifications to alien behavior, I feel like I'm watching the same movie with a set change rather than a new production. That's in comparison to the high standard of Civilization V, where each game feels like I'm building a new story with a totally new world. Beyond Earth lost some of that along the way, and Rising Tide does little to address the main reasons for it. The story-based victory conditions are still only exciting the first time you complete them, and moving so much of the visual flair, unique units, and feeling of technological progression onto a tiny number of affinities diminishes the sense of newness. The hybrid affinities help a bit. They let you play a combination of 2 affinities as opposed to being forced to purely specialize to unlock the best military units. The hybrid exclusives have weird and wonderful art, many serving combat niches that didn't exist before. There's a mobile healer and a bug-faced support squad that can buff friends and debuff allies. But the hybrid paths are not nearly as fleshed out as the core affinities, and you'll still be using a lot of familiar units from the base game. So rather than having an armload of civs to choose from that all feel and play distinctly as in other Civ games, Firaxis has added 3 options to an existing 3 for a total of 6. The Civs themselves, even the new ones that come with Rising Tide, just aren't different enough. The things that set them apart are small bonuses that are quickly washed out by affinity and leader personality choices. The North Sea Alliance has the most unique playstyle of the lot, getting big bonuses to using the new mobile floating cities. Said cities are, unfortunately, one of the more underwhelming new features. They allow for some unorthodox strategies, but their only methods of acquiring new tiles are sailing around or purchasing hexes individually. They miss out on the visual representation of progression from automatically expanding borders through culture, and simultaneously add a mundane micromanagement task. Rising Tide is a well-crafted expansion with some great ideas. The new diplomacy system is a marvel of strategy game design, and artifacts and hybrid affinities serve to reinvigorate the late game with new bonuses and tactics. But unfortunately, the biggest issue facing Beyond Earth is its lack of feeling of variation from game to game, and that remains mostly unaddressed. After just a few campaigns, I already feel like I've seen most of what it has to offer. For more on all things Civilization, stick with IGN.